If I were to ask you right now, what is your identity? What would your response be? Honestly, when I was 6 years old, my response would probably be something like, well, I'm a very shy girl, but I can be brave at times when necessary. When I was younger, I was much shy. I was very shy, actually. I was very, very shy. I was very quiet. I was that little girl in the back that didn't really say anything. But now my response would probably be something like, well, I'm a child of God and I'm loved by Him and I'm unique and I'm special, and I am one in His eyes. That would be my response, but that wasn't my response back then. I didn't accept Christ until I was 8 years old, and right around that same time, like, my family decided to move to another state. It was really different for me. I remember like switching schools, and like it was just like a different type of population, and I was just like very shy. I was very quiet, and I felt like I needed to find, like, I was already shy and quiet like at the state I was living in, my hometown, but like moving away even made me more like, oh my goodness, like, how am I gonna find friends? Like, I was very quiet. I didn't say much. I was really shy. Wasn't really brave much, you would say. And it wasn't until I was about like 14 years old when I moved back to this state, like my hometown, and that's when I feel like everything changed. My grandpa, he's a really big evangelist, and he invited me back to church. And he told me, like, let's go to church, because, you know, youth week and stuff. And at the time, I didn't really know what youth week was. I was just kind of like, okay, I guess this church just does a lot of like youth activities like every single day. And it was really nice because, like, I got to see some people that I already knew, but they didn't really know me as much. They kind of knew, like, oh, that's Marisela, but like they didn't really have any memories of me because, like, I was always so quiet. So like they didn't really know me like that. And you know, and they were like, oh, you know, she's really cool, she's really talkative now. And it was really nice. But I remember during that time, or during that season in my life, like, I felt, I mean, it obviously wasn't the peak yet, because my walk with God was probably like a slow walk. It was a slow walk, and a slow walk to the good path. So I remember I really loved singing, and I still do. And I asked the pastor, like, hey, I really want to sing at the church. And I remember he told me, like, well, you know, you got to be like a testimony, and in order, you know, like, to be a testimony to other youth, like, I would recommend you to get baptized. You know, that's just an act of obedience, and, you know, just taking that step. And I remember I got baptized in church. I remember I had like this thing that I was going to say, and I literally blanked the moment of, and I didn't say anything. I just said, like, yes, I accept Jesus into my heart, and yes, I want to get baptized. But like, and like, that was it, you know. And after that, I was like a freshman in high school when we moved back when I was 14. And I remember I started dating this boy, which I should have not dated, you know, because, like, what is a 14-year-old doing dating somebody, you know. And I didn't know anything about love. I didn't have Jesus in, like I didn't even know about God's love. Like, how am I supposed to love someone else? And like, maybe I don't even love myself, you know, like, how can I even do that? And now I know, like, I have to have self-love. I have to know who God is, that God is love, in order to really love someone and, you know, see a relationship as, like, not just dating, but like dating to marry. But anyway, I didn't date the right person at that time. I felt like there was just so many little battles and big battles going around that time. And I was really struggling to find my identity. I knew about God and I wanted to seek Him, but I didn't know exactly what He wanted me to do. So after singing for a couple of months, I remember I started taking this discipleship class, because I was like, okay, I need to know more about Him. I need to know more about God. And I remember I got put in this class, and it was really nice because I actually met like a really close friend there too. But I remember, like, we took this little mini exam, which was like a bunch of questions about like just our Christian life, hobbies, stuff like that. And at the end, we did that in class, where we had to like do like work some math out with like the questions, and basically it was going to tell us like our top 3 things that we were really good at. And for me, it was leadership, faith, and service. And at the time, you know, I kind of looked around, everybody got different things, you know. People got like pastoring, like you're called to be a pastor. People got like the calling for evangelism. People got the calling to teach. So like my sister began teaching, my older sister. One of my close friends, she became teaching too. And I remember I just kind of looked at my paper and I was like, okay, like leadership, faith, service, like what does that tell me? Like what am I supposed to do? And long story short, after I started being involved in some trips that my church would do. We would go on mission trips, little mission trips in the state I was in. There was one mission trip in particular that really spoke to me, and that was going to the Middle East. And I got to see firsthand like a physical therapist who was in the Middle East, only spoke one language, which was not Arabic. And she later on learned English, and she later on learned Arabic. And she treated refugees. And not only that, but she spread the gospel, because when people come to her facility, she's able to share freely because they come to her. And that was really, really cool to me. And I remember she told me one thing. She would teach them English and she would treat them. She was a physical therapist. And she told me that many of the refugees would ask, like you have something different. You have something different, and I can see it, and I can feel like, what is it? And that's how she would share about God. And I remember she told me, Marisela, like it only takes one person to change one individual's life. And I remember that stuck with me so much, because even till now, I'm a second-year dental student now. I'm currently on summer break, and I've been asking myself that question all the time. Like it only takes me to change someone's life. Like only one person, right? Like I can change someone's life. Like I can impact someone's life today. I can impact someone's life tomorrow. I maybe impact someone's day yesterday. And even if it's just that one person, like that's a lot for me. And I remember that's whenever I started, like when I came back from that mission trip, like I felt like my eyes were just open, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. Back then I thought, I was like, okay, I don't want to be a missionary. I do not want to be a missionary, because like it's already hard to find someone who really loves God, like husband. And I was like, how am I supposed to find someone who also likes like mission trips? Like that's going to be so difficult. But then after she said that, and after like just so many other like moments or encounters that I had with the Lord, I was just like, no, like I think I'm being called to be a missionary. I'm being called to be a missionary, and specifically a dentist. Work with kids and like go, maybe not be like a full-time missionary, but I do plan to be like a part-time missionary, where every year I want to go during my summer breaks and just go and, teach people how to brush their teeth, how to floss. But not only that, but also just like my testimony, spread the gospel. And now I would love to say like that's my identity, but it's not. I don't identify by being a Christian, I mean, yes, but I mean like not like in a religious aspect, like, oh, I'm a Christian. Like that's not my identity. My identity is that I'm a child of God. My identity is that I choose to walk in faith. That even though I go through the midst of the battles, I can be reminded, like, or I can remind others, like, hey, like, it's gonna be okay. And every time people ask that question, like, how do you evangelize? How do you share the gospel? Like, just your testimony. People can see it. Like, I'm not kidding. Sometimes I'll just be working at my job. Like, even at school, like, I didn't even have to tell nobody I went to church. People already knew I went to church. Why? Because I didn't say bad words. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm really not. Like, I did stress out a lot in school, mostly in dental school. People have seen, that side of me, like, oh, Marisela's looks a little stressed. But they also seen me be optimistic about every situation. My car breaks down. I ask another friend to take me to school, and I see the good, and I see that. And I feel like that's not something that I've been perfect at. Definitely not something that I knew since I was 6 years old. I wasn't brave, but it's through God that now I'm able to be like, hey, like I'm a child of God. I need to be reminded of that. So with that being said, I just want to remind you today, like if you are struggling to find your identity in Christ, and just like you're finding your identity in general, like you just question yourself, you're just like, okay, like what is my identity? Then I would recommend for you to just spend some time kind of like analyzing yourself. Like, how are you talking to yourself? How are you speaking to yourself? Because the words that you're saying to yourself, they can be very damaging to you. And sometimes you can be like, yeah, I identify as a Christian, as a child of God, but the way that you are looking at yourself in the mirror, the way that the words that you're saying to yourself are not really lining up with that. So I would analyze that, and I would also like spend some time in his word, because I'm not kidding. My first semester of dental school, I literally thought I was like full on. I had the armor of God, and like I wasn't reading my Bible as often as I should have. I wasn't praying. I was going to church, but I wasn't like doing all these things that I am doing, like I was doing as a Christian. And all of a sudden, you know, my lifestyle changed as a dental student, because you're studying, you're in lab, you're doing all these stuff, and you're really busy. But I had to remind myself to stop and take a moment and just care for myself. Go to the gym. If you want to go to the gym, go to the gym. You know, if you want to listen to this podcast as you're going on a walk, you know, do it. Like, do it for yourself. Just remember that your body is temple of the Holy Spirit, so you must also take care of it. You know, you can't be unhealthy and try and glorify God. I mean, obviously there are people who are having issues, but I would say the most that you can, like, just care for yourself and just, you know, be there and, you know, exercise and drink water and, you know, try to watch what you're eating, you know, just kind of really watch out what you're doing. Another thing I would say is like prayer. I think just like really speaking with God, even if it's in the car. I speak with God all the time in the car. I'm not kidding. I hope he laughs on my jokes, because I say a lot of jokes and I'm always whining. I'm always complaining. But, you know, that's just me and God talking. And I feel like it's a very special moment. And, you know, I try to pray in the mornings. I try to pray before I go to sleep. Sometimes I fall asleep before I do it. You know, I'm also like trying to really get back to like praying every time I'm eating, because sometimes I will forget. Mostly if I'm by myself. Usually when I'm with like my Christian friends, and I won't forget. But when I'm by myself, I just get ahead of myself and I just like start eating. But, you know, I would say just like focus on those things. You know, focus on analyzing yourself and just asking God and praying, reading your Bible, listening to music, and even inviting friends for a Bible study. I recently went to a Bible study with one of my friends, and we talked over Moses, and oh my goodness, I love Moses because it talks about how Moses had a purpose, and we all have a purpose. Like literally, Moses was casted into the river, that the same river where babies were dying because this new Pharaoh that didn't know what Joseph had done, he was making first he tried with the midwives, like, hey, kill every baby that you see from the Israel, and they didn't want to, because they knew about the God of Israel, so they didn't want to. So that's whenever Pharaoh got mad, and he told like his soldiers or his people, like, hey, go find, you know, these babies, and like if it's a boy, then like cast him into the river. And Moses was cast into the same river where all these babies were dying, and at the same time the Pharaoh's daughter was taking a shower, and Moses' mom casted him into the river in this little, I want to say like a little boat looking thing. I forgot like the word right now, but Miriam, Moses' sister, was looking at him from far away. And it's just so beautiful how like Pharaoh's daughter went and like sent her servants to go pick him up, and then even called Miriam like, hey, like find someone for him, someone that can nurse him. And it ended up being like his mom, his own mom. So like that's just so cool to me. You know, even what he did afterwards, like killing an Egyptian person and like running away, you know, trying to run away from God. Maybe that's you, like you've been trying to run away from God, and God called Moses again from a bush that was burning, but it wasn't even burning. And he just said like, take off your sandals, like where you're standing is holy land. And it's just so beautiful. So like I would say like go have a Bible study. If you haven't went to go get a Bible if you haven't went to a Bible study with your friend, like go to a Bible study. Like this is your moment. Like go have a Bible study. And that's really what I wanted to say today. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast in your walk or in your run or whatever it is that you're doing today. I feel like there's a purpose for today, and if you haven't found your identity, then you're never too far gone from it. And one thing I do want to say, this is really random. I wasn't going to say this, but I felt the need to. My mom has been going through a lot of health issues at the moment, so I would really appreciate it if you guys could pray for her. She's been in and out of like the hospital, and she's just hasn't been doing so well. And actually I wasn't going to record this, but I decided to, because I was like, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I told my mom I was going to do it finally. And you know, I told her, like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, and she's really proud of me. But if you guys could pray for my mom, I would really appreciate that. And also, if any of you guys have like petitions, like, just let me know, or like in the comments, and I will read them, and I'll be praying for you guys as well. But I hope that you guys enjoyed today's message, and be on the lookout for more. And just a reminder to go and live love, because you are loved by him. Bye guys. Have a blessed day.